Conscious Collaboration Circle. I'm Ricky Quintana. I'm the founder of HoonArts Fair Trade, which is an artisan-based business. We are located in the U.S. in Albuquerque. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I work with artisans in Central Asia in 3 of the stands: Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. And Rana and I met because we connected over this amazing artisan-related app that he's developing. Before we get started, I wanted to just, for those of you who haven't heard of our CCC, our Conscious Collaboration Circle before, it was an idea that for me that was born out of the pandemic, and seeing how the impact of the pandemic just accelerated the digital attention and the growth of the big guys, and made business harder and harder for the little guys. And I just am, HoonArts is a member of the Fair Trade Federation. We're committed to the principles of fair trade, and we are part of that growing community around the world of enterprises, whether for-profit, nonprofit, social impact, B Corp, who are all looking at moving beyond profits as the primary and sole goal of the company. More and more people are looking at prioritizing people and planet over profit, or at least on an equal level with profit. And for those of us who are at the startup end, or small enterprises who don't have a vision of turning into the next Amazon, I just became convinced that collaboration among enterprises is going to be the secret sauce that makes it possible to build a new ecosystem where everybody stops operating solely in their own silo for their own benefit, and starts to look at how can we reach out and collaborate with other like-minded enterprises who are committed to making the world a better place, and move away from the pay-to-play, where the only people who get attention are those who can afford to pay more, who are already succeeding. So in our Conscious Collaboration Circle interviews, what I like to do is connect with other like-minded leaders from small, large, medium-sized startup enterprises and organizations who have that same vision of building a more equitable and collaborative ecosystem. So that's when I heard about Rana's new app that he was working on. It seemed like a perfect fit for CCC and very aligned with our values. So I would like to introduce you now to Rana Saad. He has a very distinguished background in tech development and innovation. He was a presidential innovation fellow, if I got that right, Rana. He's done a lot of things in tech, but what inspired me to bring him on to CCC today was the work he's doing with Tuzmo, which is developing this amazing new app that will benefit artisans around the world. So I'd like to start Rana, and Kenji, if you can spotlight Rana now. I would like to ask you to explain in layman's terms what you're doing with Tuzmo and why it's different.
Sure. First of all, thanks, Ricky, for the opportunity. It's a huge privilege to be speaking to you and your followers. Tuzmo, as you laid the perfect background for that, arose out of the similar concerns for a world which is increasingly, sort of dominated by big players, but most of us, the artisans and people who do handmade stuff around the world, have a very difficult time connecting with the digital economy or with the tourists and travelers. So Tuzmo, in a nutshell, matches travelers and tourists with artisans of the world, right? So artisans, and we'll define it a little further, but basically homemade, handmade crafts and artisanal, traditional items that connect with local cultures. And the need for it arose out of looking at what's out there. And basically, in the current economy, the artisans are at the sort of the at the bottom of the economic connectivity, if you like. And if we as a Western tourist, if we travel to a cultural destination, let's say we go to somewhere in Asia, let's say Bali, Indonesia, and if the tourist buys an item, the artisan typically gets 10 cents to the dollar that the Western tourist is spending, either when they buy it locally in the destination, or if they buy it at home using one of the big guys platforms that you were talking about, right? So there is that imbalance in sort of the economy away from the artisan. And then for the tourists, it's a huge issue finding the artisans. Artisans are hard to find because they're typically not in the sort of the travel locations, in the sort of the sort of the more visible parts of the travel destinations. Let's say a tourist goes to a beach resort, right? I mean, it's very hard to find artisans in the upscale parts of the town or around the beaches and things like that. So there's that search problem. There's that connectivity problem. So the way we define our platform is Tuzmo is a two-sided marketplace, which is on one side empowering the artisans. It is letting the artisans connect with the world better, and on the other side, for the tourists and travelers, it's enriching their experience by connecting them with to me, one of the most beautiful expressions of local cultures, which is the artisanal crafts. So that is what our app is. It's a two-sided marketplace connecting the artisans and craftsmen directly with the tourists without any middle persons, without any other arbitrage in the middle, and more importantly, it allows them to tell their story. So we are taking it, we are changing the paradigm from selling products to telling their stories. And that is a very important part of our platform. We are spending a lot of time in curating the stories, in capturing the stories and data about the artisans from around the world. So far, we've touched 190 countries in terms of collecting data and in terms of collecting their stories. And we feel that we have just, sort of touched the tip of the iceberg. There is so much to discover underneath, and that's where we need support from people who may be listening to this one, or who may get the message that this is a collaborative thing. Coming back to your theme of conscious collaboration, that we can do it if we all sort of believe that this sort of collaboration can lead to a win-win platform, mainly benefiting the artisans, the craftsmen, the handicraft makers around the world. And one final thought before I let you go back to your other questions. I know you have a list of questions, but very quickly, the platform fills a void that's there from the big guys. The big guys, and not to sort of belabor that one, but big guys focus on a different problem, which is if you think about the big e-commerce platforms, and I can name them, Amazon and Etsy, for example, they are meant for home shoppers. So if I'm sitting in my home in Maryland, USA, and I want to buy a craft item from let's say Thailand, I can go to Etsy and I can find some very nice items from there. Same with Amazon, maybe not as high quality handmade stuff as on Etsy, but I can find some crafts on Amazon as well. But that's not the problem we are solving. Tuzmo is solving a different problem. We are helping travelers and tourists who are already in a destination. Let's say I go to Thailand, and now I want to know where the artisans are, who are the artisans, and how do I actually meet them, connect with them, see them make their craft, and as a human, do a human interaction with them. So I'll pause there and we'll tell you the rest of the story with other questions.
Well, before we move on,
Recording in progress.
I wanted to follow up a little bit so viewers will get a sense of how the app will work. And I'll give you a really concrete example. I'm co-sponsoring a tour that will go to Central Asia, the 3 countries where the artisans I work with live, this fall. And those artisans are not directly on Etsy or any Western platform because I would guess at this time that the primary barrier is a payment gateway. They don't have American or Western European credit cards that they can use to create an account on Etsy. PayPal doesn't operate in their world. And I know from experience, my first trip to Tajikistan, when I saw souvenirs, I would turn them over and say, made in China. And we had a great conversation about how difficult it is to find authentic, locally produced souvenirs, whether you're in the US or you're in Central Asia. So for the participants in my little tour and the artisans that will be visiting on our tour, how would Tuzmo work for them?
Sure. And I'm a big fan of the way you describe our app, Ricky, and I've told you in the past you should be our spokesperson. So that's exactly the problem we are solving, that you go into a destination, you mentioned stands, and my roots go back to another stand in the region, which is Pakistan. I was born there, and some of the motivation to build this app comes from the cultural roots, because I know how culturally rich these countries can be, but at the same time, how difficult it can be to find the real artisans in those countries, right? So to come back to your question, so we are solving that problem by breaking it down into, I guess, regionally and locally, as well as leveraging, how some other platforms have solved it in a different context, right? So we are bringing those solutions in a holistic way to this part of the economy which has never been applied. So for example, there are freelancing platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, which operate in more than 170 countries, if I'm not wrong, and they pay their freelancers by the hour, and they send payments, and they're very happy people. And a lot of them, actually all of the stands are on it. Most of the African countries are on it. The Pacific Island nations, the small Pacific Island nations are on it. So we know the problem has been solved, and we will piggyback some of that, but at the same time, we are actually very global by the team we have built is already very global. We have resources at this point in 9 different countries, and we are a very small company, So you can imagine as we expand, we'll try to actually have resources from as many countries, expand our footprint. And we are going to set up small local presences wherever we can in as cost-effective way as possible. So it's a combination of leveraging whatever advances in technology and digitization that have happened, combining it with our presence or either direct or through partners. So we are finding partners in different locations, for example, and we are also learning from these interactions that we do on a daily basis with different destinations. Just this morning, actually, we were talking to tourism department from Croatia. Croatia is a very developed country, so I don't think any payments would be a problem there. But last week, we were in conversation with Zambia. And Zambia, somebody said that obviously PayPal doesn't work, but they said everybody uses here digital payments through phones, so you can actually pay somebody by sending payment to their phone number. And it's a pretty well accepted. Nobody has bank accounts in villages, or very few people do, but they all accept phone or digital payment. So to answer your question, we are, sort of breaking the big problem down into smaller problems and addressing it on a country by country basis. It's a very exciting journey for us because once we have solved this problem, it opens doors for a lot of expansion into what else we can do with that infrastructure that we will build to be able to operate a two-sided marketplace with ability to pay people and pay people in 190 countries or close to that, as well as receive payments from many of those countries. Obviously, the payment side, where we are receiving payments, is a different demographic, right? Those are typically countries which are sending the tourists, and those are typically developed economies. So we don't have to worry about how we charge the customer, how we charge the paying customer who's buying the products, right? That's typically with PayPal or with credit cards or some other modern methods. So I hope I answered your question. I don't know.
Let me get more concrete.
Sure.
I arrive in, let's say, in Tashkent, and I haven't been there before. I don't know who the artists are, but Tuzmo is up and running in Tashkent, and I don't want to just buy at the hotel gift store because I know there's a huge markup and I won't have the chance to learn about the artists. So I pull out my phone and I pull up the Tuzmo app. What do I see and what do I do?
Sure. So thanks. So now I get it. So it's very simple. And the easiest way I can explain that to people is think about it as how you use, let's say, Airbnb or Uber, right? When I traveled to Pakistan to see my father, 91 years old, God bless him, so I use Uber all the time because I want to avoid having to change currency or sometimes speak the local language, or and I don't want to maybe deal with negotiating with people on prices and things like that. The app does it for me. So the paradigm is very similar. So you will open the Tuzmo app on, and it will show on a map all the artisans in the vicinity. Similar to, again, how you find rooms on Airbnb, and you can then narrow it down by your interest. For example, you can say, I'm only interested in pottery or ceramics, or I'm only interested in textiles, and so on and so forth. So you can narrow it down by that, or you can narrow down by price. For example, you can say, I'm only interested in items which are below $50 or $100 or something. Or you can just look at the map and read people's reviews. Artisans will have reviews. So an artisan which is 4.9 and 100 people have reviewed it, that you can't go wrong on that, right? We are all now savvy on on reviews and ratings thanks to the pandemic's forced training. But it's as simple as that. Finding artisans on the map. You don't have to speak the local language to know their story, because we'll have the stories and their crafts and everything in whatever the language the user is using. So if they are English speaking, which is our default starting language, it will be in English. So if the artisan told their story in Uzbek, for example, to use your example, we will have it translated or with subscripts, with subtitles, their videos and their story available to you, so you know exactly what this artisan is about, what is their backstory, and what other people have reviewed it at.
And so I find an artist and there will be listings.
Yes. So let me, sorry, I can walk you through the rest of it. So once you find the artisan, so that solves one part of the problem, which is finding the artisans, right? Now, to complete the interaction, we allow you to obviously browse through their products. So you can see artisans, for example, have multiple products. So you can choose your product, again, read the product story also in addition to the artisan story. Then you can, read the product reviews as well as maybe even ask a question from the artisan. It's a chat-like interface, so you can ask the question. And then let's say you're convinced this is the thing for you, then you can actually buy it through the app. And that saves you from having to again carry local currency or not being able to pay with your credit card. So we charge you on your local payment preferences, which is either a credit card or PayPal, whatever you've chosen as your default payment. Once you've done that, then we give you the full address of the artisan, again, similar to Airbnb, where you can now then go and pick up the item, or we give you two other options. So you can either pick up the item, which a lot of people we assume will prefer, because that's part of the experience, right? Going and meeting the artisan. But let's say you, for any reason, you don't want to go to the that part of the town, or you don't have the time. You can choose to have it delivered to your hotel or your place where you're staying, Airbnb or whatever. And the third option is, if the item is bulky and you don't want to carry it with you back to your home destination where you came from, you can always have it shipped. So you can, through the app, you can mention that you don't want to pick it up, you don't want to have it delivered locally, you want to have it shipped back to your place, in which case you will pay the shipping, of course, because shipping these days is expensive. So, because of COVID, the shipping is 2 or 3 times the normal shipping. But a lot of tourists who, again, go to these places, it's a once in a lifetime experience. If you go to, let's say, a remote destination, you've spent thousands of dollars of airline ticket to get there, paying $100 or maybe $50 for shipping, I think people will probably do that.
And from the artist's perspective, what happens on his side of the equation?
Sure. So they will receive a notification that a tourist has bought an item that they have listed, and this is the quantity. Typically, it's a single, because these are unique items, right? So we don't expect these to be sold in multiple quantity. But anyways, they receive a notification about the order. They will have their own side of the app as well, by the way. So it's the same app, but it's artisan side of the app. They will receive a notification just like you get a notification in WhatsApp that you have a new message, right? So they see the notification, and they can, if it's a pickup, if an item that the tourist needs to pick up, the artisan will have defined windows of time when they allow the pickups to happen. For example, between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So they can message the tourists that this is the time that they would prefer to be picked up, and so on and so forth. So there's some messaging back and forth, but they get the item ready, and they will have specified a fulfillment time, by the way. So when you list an item, you can specify that you need 24 hours to get the item ready for pickup. So that's the fulfillment time. A lot of times artisans typically may have to maybe package it a certain way. They may need to clean it up or whatever, whatever the final preparation is. So in any case, at the time of the pickup, they make it ready and have it and meet the tourists when they come to their place and give it to them, and then they mark it in the app as fulfilled or delivered.
And how will they get paid?
So we collect the payment, of course, on the platform on their behalf, and we show the artisans in the app their earnings, which is a little wallet in the app for them. And when they set up a threshold that if it exceeds that, then we send a direct payment to them, right? So the default is $100. So anytime their earnings reach $100, they will receive either whatever method they have specified. Now the payments to the artisans, the default payment method is bank transfers, right? If they have a bank account. In cases where they don't have a bank account, and they don't have PayPal, the second method is PayPal. If they don't have PayPal, then we do, for country by country, like we were talking about, we do digital payments depending on what's available in that country. But we will get the payment to them. They will get as long as it's over the threshold, the amount reaches over the threshold. Every time it does that, we'll send them a payment.
And I assume there's some sort of either fee and or transactional commission involved for the vendors, for the makers.
So our fee, the platform fee is 25%. So if an item sells for $100, the platform keeps 25 and the artisan gets 75. But there are a lot of things that we are taking care of in that 25. I just want to highlight a couple of those. One is, of course, we are taking care of all the marketing, which is a huge part of any platform, right? So we make sure the tourists who come to, in your case, for example, to Uzbekistan, that they know that this app exists, they download it, and that's how the artisans will get the leads, right? So marketing is a huge part of it. We are also taking care of all of the customer service. So both sides, the artisan side, onboarding them, enrolling them, helping them, solve the problems and on the platform and payments and all of that. And the other side, we are taking care of all the tourists and traveler customer service issues as well, right? So that, and the third part is payment processing. We are taking care of all the payment processing on both sides. It's a two-sided marketplace, so there's a lot of complexity involved. So we're taking care of all of that. So the net 75% that the artisan gets is still, we think in our estimation, at least five times more than the current ROI they get on their crafts, right? An artisan whose product sells for $100 on Amazon or Etsy is typically, or not Amazon or Etsy, in a store in the US or in a store at the airport or in a store at the hotel, the artisan is getting $15, for a $100 item, they're getting $15. So we are changing that to $75.
And if a customer wants to ship something, how does that work? Do you make a profit on the shipping? How is it organized?
No. So shipping is at cost. We are actually, it's a challenge right now because the shipping costs are all over the place right now. So we are trying to keep it as realistic as possible, but no, we are not making any profit on that. That's at cost. So we will from country to country, we'll set the rates based on the shipping options available from those countries by the weight and stuff like that, and we'll set it at the platform level. So the artisan will ship, and they will, any cost related to shipping, they are reimbursed, but at cost. There's no profit involved there. We allow a small amount of handling cost. For example, if the artisan has to drive to the post office to deliver, and there's petrol or gas involved, obviously we allow a small percent as a handling cost, and which is yet to be determined. We'll probably do it on a country by country basis, but that's the only thing that is not at cost. We will have a formula for that.
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, this app presents just an amazing opportunity for the artisans I work with. What kind of timeline do you have for going live with your first locations?
Sure. So we are very close to that. We already launched a prototype app, which was a closed beta that we tested with a small number of users in one destination, and that went very, very well. So we are in the final stages of completing our MVP, the minimum viable product. And we are targeting the second week of March, mid-March. So March 15th is the current timeline for us to launch. We are on target for that, but it may slip by a week or two, but we are very, very close to that launch date right now.
Well, this is totally excited. And as you and I have talked before, I want to make sure that the HoonArts artists are part of TUSMO because I think the pandemic is finally starting to wind down and people are starting to think about traveling again. And travelers have always been one of the best sources for the artisans I work with who do very traditional arts. It's very time consuming. It's very high quality, and it's tough to get reimbursed adequately for that for the quality of that product in the local market. Now I want to shift gears. Now that our viewers have a sense of what an amazing opportunity TUSMO is going to represent for the future and artisans working around the world, I want to know what brought you to this place? You mentioned you grew up in Pakistan, you came to the US, you did the digital route, and you've done digital startups. What inspired a tech guy to take on this task? And was there one specific incident or a relationship or something that happened to you that made the little light bulb go off for you?
So that's a great question, actually. But I don't think there's that light bulb moment I can point you to, but I can tell you the broader, bigger story, which is, yes, it goes back to my sort of global roots, cultural roots. I came here as a 19-year-old student to do my engineering, but my career took me all over the world, right? Once I graduated, I became a consultant in technology, so it took me all over the world, and if I count correctly, I've been to 90 plus countries as we speak. And this was even before I launched the app. So now I think I'll make it to the rest of the 110. And I would love to. I love traveling. It's just something that makes me even more excited than technology. Technology is my breadwinner, but what really gets me excited is the world's cultures, languages, crafts, arts, history even. And just meeting and interacting with different people, and it's just the way I'm made. I enjoy that, So when I traveled, I obviously looked at it from a little bit of a technology angle as well, in terms of what is missing, what part of the travel economy hasn't been disrupted by technology, or what part of that can benefit from technology, right? And it was actually pretty obvious. I didn't have to dig very deep, because everywhere I went, I was looking for authentic local souvenirs, right? And we all do. That's how we create a permanent connection with the place. And I was getting increasingly frustrated, and you said it very rightly. I mean, a lot of those items we were finding, if you flip on the back, it was made in China, So a lot of the trinkets you find at the airport and hotels were made in China. So that was just very frustrating. And then actually just 2 days ago in another meeting like this, somebody said they were from Spain, and we were talking to somebody in Spain to be our partner. And they said the same thing. They said, people are selling in Barcelona, souvenirs for Barcelona, which is an elephant, right? They said the last time there was an elephant in Iberian Peninsula was like 1 million years ago. So there's no connection with the local places, right? So that's why that sort of observation over time, kept brewing in my head. But then just in my presidential innovation, I guess the aha moment was, as part of my Presidential Innovation Fellowship, we went and met many embassies. We visited many embassies here in the DC area as part of the technology and innovation collaboration. And the more cultures and countries I interacted with, and some the ambassadors' residences are some of the most beautiful places to find cultural artifacts. They bring the best from their countries, and I was looking at those. I said, this is the sort of stuff that any tourist should be able to go and buy, right? But where do we find it? I went to the Albanian ambassador's residence, a wonderful lady, and there were some artifacts which were just unbelievable. I've been to Albania twice, and I didn't see them. I didn't see them anywhere available, right? So that was the aha moment just before the pandemic, where I said, this is the problem we need to solve. And it's not a small problem. It's not a small part of the economy, by the way. The global souvenir and craft buying economy is currently $90 billion, and it'll grow to $150 billion by 2026. So, and who knows what role pandemic will play in that, but the numbers are pretty convincing that this is a problem ripe for solutions. And the reason the big guys are not in that one is because it's a very, very hard problem to solve. I don't want to trivialize it, and Ricky, you've been to, the stands and, many other countries, and how hard it is, even when you're there, to reach the artisans and connect with the right ones, the quality versus what you find, maybe at the trinket store on the street. It's very different. The true artisans are not very visible. They're not very accessible. You have to really make an effort to find them. So we are not solving just the superficial problem, but the problem underneath, which was preventing these artisans from connecting to the world economy. Hopefully, we'll do it in a way that's that really makes it very empowering for these artisans and permanently solve that problem.
Well, your story is very inspiring and enlightening. I was surprised to hear. I honestly, I'd never heard of the Presidential Innovation Fellowship, and I was excited to hear that it had this global connection as part of the program. So, what have you seen so far, just so far, in terms of the impact your focus on this project has been, and what is your big picture vision for what it may bring to the world?
Well, the impact so far, that's a great question. The impact so far that I've seen is that I have been able to talk to some amazing people from, I would say, if I'm keeping count right now, we are early in our journey, but I've at least talked to people from 150 plus countries already. And that in a pandemic-ridden economy or world to me is already an achievement, right? So I feel very, very good about where we are currently in terms of impact, in terms of convincing people that this is something the world needs. And I'm actually very proud, and I don't want to beat my own drum in a way, that the elevator speech that we practice, is my 30-second speech telling somebody what we do. And I've practiced it with people from 150 plus different countries, and everybody gets it. Nobody has said that we don't get what you're trying to do, right? So that gives me spring in my feet, that this is something that's worth doing, and everybody almost tells me the same thing, that we need it, if you build it, we will sign up, right? So that's a huge endorsement for our mission, So now talking about the mission and vision, the second part of your question, I think that's where even the bigger excitement exists. I feel, and I fully believe, that we have an opportunity to impact millions of artisans around the world. And I'm not exaggerating. The numbers are in millions. Not everybody is a master craftsman, but there are millions of craftsmen around the world. and ultimately we can help them, especially in a post-pandemic economy. Somebody was just telling me yesterday that many of their artisans have gone out of business or are really suffering, and their survival is becoming a challenge. So I think timing is right for something like what we are trying to do. But in terms of impact, that's how impactful something like this can be and will be if we execute it right. Obviously, there's a lot of detail involved in getting it right. But we are very confident that we are onto the right problem, which has a scale which is mind-boggling. It's in the millions in terms of people. Now, coming to the other side of the equation, the tourist side of it. So that's the artisan side, right, where the impact can be up, hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of artisans. But on the tourist side, it can totally change how the tourists experience their travel, right? So to me, the way travel is sold to the tourists is currently very sort of objectified, and I don't mean in a very negative way. It's just the way travel economy works, right? They go. I was in Punta Cana last fall for our, this one of the cities where we launch. So I was amazed that how disconnected you are from local culture if you are in a resort in Punta Cana for a week. I stayed in an all-paid resort for a week. If it wasn't for my work, which is Tuesday's work, I would have come back from there without ever even talking to a single local outside of the hotel staff. That's how disconnected you can be. So that we are changing that, right? So we, in terms of impact, in terms of experience, and connecting pretty much every tourist or most of the tourists, connecting them with local cultures, local people, local crafts, and local history. Our app can be a bridge to that. So that's how impactful this can be. So to me, crafts are the best expression of a culture that somebody can bring back when they come back from travel, right? And we will play a big part in making it happen.
That bridge building was, for me, what spoke to my heart as the founder of HoonArts, because I've always viewed art as a hook that catches people's attention, and from that you can start a conversation and start to build bridges and understanding for
Absolutely.
a different kind of world that works for everyone.
Absolutely. And believe me, the world needs it. And I am 100% with you. I get as emotional about it as you do. And you can probably, you've talked to me before, you've heard this. And when we talk about the sort of the mission, that's our mission, to create a more connected world where people can interact and transact without national barriers, without barriers of borders, right? So I can learn about a culture, I can interact with a culture, with another culture, I can bring back a piece of it with me without being hindered by a different language or different maybe currency or other barriers, right? If we make it happen, we would have done our part in this world.
So since this is conscious collaboration, say a little bit about how your personal background, your personal network, and collaborative efforts have played into this, and how what impact collaboration will have on the Tuzmo business and the Tuzmo community.
I think our mission is all about collaboration. That's the only way we can get there, right? I mean, we are starting at the bottom of a huge pyramid, right? We have to climb all the way to the top and take a lot of people with us. It's the network which will get us there, and because these communities, that's the best way to reach them is to leverage people who already have opened those doors, right? So we on our own cannot be in all of these. We need you. We need anybody who's done the hard work already, and make it sort of a village effort instead of an individual effort. Just yesterday, and I have so many of these stories, and you'll hear me every time. So yesterday we were talking to a company, which a nonprofit, which is doing some great work with the indigenous people in Guyana, in the Amazonian people in Guyana, the indigenous people of Guyana. And it was just amazing the amount of work they've done. And I was thinking to myself, and I talked to my team about it, there's no way, I mean, it would have taken us decades to get that, to reach those people, or even to collect that information. And they are just like yourself, they are so supportive of our mission, and they said, whatever we can do for you, with you, we'll do it. So we are very proud of these partnerships and collaborations we are building. People are, understanding our mission, and and they are sharing their mission. And the great thing about our model is it doesn't step on anybody's feet. We are all about helping others, helping artisans connect to the world. Even if somebody is working with a set of artisans in a certain country, we work with them instead of bypassing them. We allow them to become a part of this ecosystem and benefit from their artisans connecting with the world, both materially as well as obviously as part of our mission. So to answer your question, I think collaboration is actually is not a luxury; it's a necessity for us. Without this, we will not succeed. So anybody listening to this podcast and this broadcast, I think we welcome all collaborations. We will make sure that our partners are always recognized, and we take care of them as well. But this is a very rewarding mission, and we welcome as many of as much support as we can get.
When we wrap up, I'll have you tell everybody where they can reach you. Couple of other things I wanted to quickly cover before we sign off for today. There are lots of organizations like HoonArts, and there are lots of other organizations working to build a better world that are not artisan-based, but are struggling to build a sustainable business in the current ecosystem. What's one tip or one piece of business advice you would give them to help them build a sustainable business model or operational model?
Sure. I think I'll keep it very modest. I know there's a lot of things we can share as advice, but I don't want to sound like somebody who has tons of them. But I think the one big one I have is that if you have a big mission or vision, start somewhere. I'm a believer in not getting overwhelmed by the magnanimity, the magnitude of the mission. Keep the mission as big as you can, but start small, start somewhere, and small steps add up, as we are seeing in our case. Every step we take, every new country we touch, every new artisan we speak to, it gives us so much spring in our feet, so much satisfaction, and so much belief that yes, it's possible. If you see the number of artisans that you've enrolled, let's say multiply by 10 in a matter of let's say 2 months, then obviously that gives you even more sprite, right? So that's what I'm saying. Baby steps keep adding up, and your big mission suddenly becomes possible. So don't be discouraged by first of all the very large mission that you may have, and very large possible competition that may end up in the future, or may already be waiting for you, or whatever. Don't reward yourself with small successes, and keep taking those baby steps. You will be amazed how quickly you can get to a position where you suddenly start seeing the big mission within reach.
Very wise advice. I've often said that for me, when I started HoonArts, which is now 7 years ago, I didn't think I needed a mindset shift. I didn't, because after all, I'd been through law school. I'd worked in the business law field for many years. I had a good work ethic. What's this woo-woo mindset stuff? But that being able to deal with setbacks and keep going when you're trying to climb Everest from a valley,
Yeah.
how to keep going is so critical. And that I appreciate your perspective on that, because I think it is so critical, particularly for companies and enterprises that are focusing on solving hard problems. If they were easy problems, they would have already been solved.
Exactly. Mhm. Totally.
So I really appreciate that. So if if people want to connect with you, where can they connect with you? Where can they find out more about Tuzmo? Where can artists sign up?
Sure. So the best way is a couple of things. You can go to our website, tuzmo.com. You can also, on any social media, the major ones, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, and LinkedIn, just search for Tuzmo. Our page will come up, and the best way is to message us, follow us there, and send us a message. We'll make sure somebody reaches out. We are in a very active sort of enrollment mode right now for partners and artisans. So somebody from our team will reach out and help you on board in any of the roles. I mean, if you are a sister organization which is in a certain country willing to help, we would love to talk to you. If you are an individual artisan, we would love to talk to you as well. Or if you're somebody who can point us in the right direction, obviously we very welcome that, and we look forward to talking to you as well. So tuzmo.com, or it's actually tuzmo.official on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And on Twitter, actually, Tuzmo1, but for some reason, but on the others, it's tuzmo.official. But search for Tuzmo, Tuzmo. Can't go wrong on that, 5 letters, so easy to remember, and has some resemblance with the word tourism. That's one reason why we chose it. And the other one is in the Polish language, it means nearby. So we are just using that connection to help you find artisans nearby in Tuzmo. Yeah.
Great. So to wrap up, I always wrap up with a final question. So if I say the words conscious collaboration, what does that look like for you? What does that bring to mind for you?
I think part of it is what we already discussed, but to me, collaboration for mutual success is what it means. And if you have good mission in life and you're on a journey, how I say it is both pay it forward as well as sideways, So pay it sideways as well. I mean, not just to people who follow you, but who are actually maybe on a similar journey, maybe following a similar mission, and you can collaborate with them, right? So there are a lot of opportunities, and especially in a post-pandemic world, we were all in it together, and we are all coming out of it together. So let's help each other emerge from it by conscious collaboration for mutual success.
Thank you so much, Rana, for joining us today. This has been an inspiring conversation for me, and I can't wait till we can get the HoonArts artists on the platform. I know there are lots of challenges in doing that, but I'm excited to see you tackling those, and really looking forward to seeing where Tuzmo goes and what it does. So Thank you, anybody tuning in on Facebook Live, for joining us. You'll be able to see the video of this will be recorded, and you'll be able to see it on Facebook Live, and we'll also be posting it on our YouTube channel. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll say goodbye. So
Thank you, Ricky, and thank you, HoonArts, for the opportunity and the privilege.
my pleasure.